Hello everyone, so this is Dr. Harvinder and I'm going to teach you Advanced Organic Chemistry. The subject code of this course is 19 SHT 701. This course mainly consists of 3 units. The first unit contains some of the oxidizing agents in which we are going to learn how the alcohols are converted into aldehydes and corresponding acids, right? And then how alkenes are converted into corresponding cis and trans thiol, and what are the regioselectivity, stereoselectivity and chemoselectivity of the reagents, right? Then in unit 2 we are going to learn about some of the reducing agents, and again we are going to see, so every reducing agent will not used at everywhere. So that is known as the selectivity of the reducing agent. So we selectively use this reducing agent to reduce the particular compound and to achieve the targeted molecules, right? Then in unit 3 we are going to learn about the molecular rearrangements, why this kind of molecular rearrangement takes place, what is the concept behind when a molecule undergoes some sort of rearrangements. So we will discuss each and everything in detail. So let's start. So first is oxidation reaction. So oxidation, first of all, the term oxidation and reduction, they are interrelated to each other. Oxidation, there is a large number of definitions are there that explain the concept oxidation. However, at the same time there are large number of definitions are there which describe the concept of reduction. So oxidation and reduction both are same, but both are opposite to each other. For example, if we see what is oxidation, oxidation means lose of electron. For example, this is A having electrons, it loses and become 2 positive. So this is what our oxidized molecule. So when a molecule is going to lose its electron, there is some another molecule that gain electron, right? So at that case we can say a reduction takes place. So the molecule which undergo oxidation is known as reducing agent, and the molecule which undergo reduction is known as oxidizing agent. So means whatever the oxidizing agent we are going to study in this reaction, that gain electron, right? So usually we are going to discuss metals. So metals, if metal gain electron, right, they will have a negative charge on it, but we know that metals do not have a negative charge on it. So when the metals are in their highest oxidation state, then they start gaining electron, right? So in that means whatever the d block elements we are going to study here, they all reach to their higher oxidation state, or you can say the highest oxidation state, and they then start gaining electron. So after studying this course, so student will be able to study the oxidation of various organic compounds with different reagent, and the second outcome is learn the use of chemical reagent in various chemical reactions. Yes, that is most important, that every reagent is not used at everywhere. So student have to learn the concept of reagents. So a specific reagent is used to carry out a particular reaction, all right? So next, student going to learn about the pathway. Pathway means how reaction is going on, what are the driving force behind the reaction, right? So to start, before to start the actual course, let us discuss some of the definitions of oxidizing and reducing agents. So the first heading is oxidation versus reduction. So let's discuss oxidation and reduction in terms of oxygen transfer. So whenever we are talking about oxygen transfer, that means if some reagent that gain oxygen, right, that gain oxygen, right, that is known as oxidation. If reagent loses oxygen, then it means reduction. Let us discuss this example. In this molecule, if we have a particular this molecule and a particular this reactant is reacting with this reactant, right, and what we are seeing in the product, so iron have iron loses oxygen, right, so that means it become reduced, and carbon have one more oxygen, that means carbon is oxidized. So that means our iron is reduced where carbon get oxidized. So that is the concept of oxidation and reduction. Where oxidation is going on, simultaneously side by side some reduction is also going on. So next we will discuss oxidation and reduction in terms of hydrogen transfer. Now gaining of hydrogen is reduction, losing of hydrogen is oxidation, right. So here in this molecule we use some of the reagent that depending upon condition what reagent we are going to use, right. So we are choosing one reagent that convert alcohol into aldehyde, right. If we see in this molecule, so 3 hydrogen is there and total 6 hydrogens are there, and in this molecule we have total 4 hydrogens, here we have total 6 hydrogens. So number of hydrogen molecules are reduced, number of hydrogen atoms are reduced. So that means what is going on? Oxidation is going on, that is removal of hydrogen or loss of hydrogen, that is known as oxidation is going on, right. If we see the reverse of this reaction, so here a number of hydrogen atom is 4 and it is converted into another molecule where number of hydrogen atoms are 6, right, that means gain of hydrogen. So what is happening here? That is reduction. So in previous example we have oxidation and in this example we have reduction, right. So let's talk about some of the reagent which are usually used for this purpose. The commonly used reagent that convert alcohol into aldehyde is potassium dichromate solution with acidified sulfuric acid. Basically it is a strong, it may convert into acid as well. So PCC, pyridinium chlorochromate, is the best reagent if we want to choose at this stage, right. So similarly we have aldehyde. If we have our sodium boron hydride, that is very selective reducing agent that convert aldehyde into alcohol, right. So let's talk about one more term in which oxidation and reduction are generally talked about in terms of electron transfer, and we know that lose of electron is oxidation and gain of electron is reduction. So if we talk here, the oxidation state of copper is +2 and the oxidation state of magnesium is 0, but if we check here, the oxidation state of copper is 0 and the oxidation state of magnesium is +2. That means 0 is converting into +2, that means oxidation. So in terms of electrons, magnesium is oxidized, but same copper is reduced. So if we typically see that, right, so copper 2 ions basically removing or gaining electron from magnesium, right. Therefore copper 2 ions are acting as oxidizing agent, right. So whatever is reduced, that is going to be an oxidizing agent, whatever is oxidized, that is going to be an reducing agents. So this is all about the basic definitions of oxidation and reduction. We are going to discuss in different forms, right? So let's start with the actual syllabi. The first topic of the syllabus is the oxidation of hydrocarbons, right? So oxidation means combustion, right? Combustion means something uncontrolled. So if we have a hydrocarbon, in the first step we are going to oxidize. In next case also we have a hydrocarbon, and I am again going to oxidize, right? Then what should be the difference? The difference is if you supply excess of oxygen, right? That is complete oxidation or uncontrolled oxidation. If it is a complete oxidation or uncontrolled oxidation, it always gives us carbon dioxide plus water plus large amount of energy. Like we are using fuel at home, a mixture of ethane and propane, right, as in the LPG cylinders, right? So when you ignite, what you are going to do, there is a lot of oxygen present in the environment, so you are going to oxidize your hydrocarbon, that is ethane and propane, and that convert into carbon dioxide and water, plus large amount of energy is produced, that is basically used for the cooking purpose. So next is the partial oxidation. Partial oxidation means where you have provided limited amount of oxygen or not excess amount of oxygen. So depending upon the amount of oxygen we are providing, we are getting the different product, and the formation of product will also depend upon which catalyst or which reagents we are going to use, right? So next is the oxidation of hydrocarbons. So we are more interested in oxidation, incomplete oxidation or controlled oxidation of hydrocarbons, all right? So here nascent oxygen shows the insertion reactions. So basically we have the nascent oxygen that can be produced by various number of ways, like by the photolysis of ozone, nitrogen dioxide, NO3, right? If we photolyze it at different wavelength, like ozone, if you irradiate at 330 nanometer, then it will be split into oxygen, O2 and O radical, right? And so on. Similar in case of NO2, similar in case of NO3, right? And then this nascent oxygen, we can write it like this. This nascent oxygen may react with either oxygen molecule back, right, or the moisture present in the atmosphere, right? So in the atmosphere, if it react with oxygen, back with oxygen, it back form ozone, means ozone on irradiation will be split into oxygen and nascent oxygen. This nascent oxygen is very reactive, it back react to oxygen molecule and form our ozone molecule, right? And let's say the rate of reaction is R1. Here also, if we have nascent oxygen that may react with water, right, and break water into two OH radicals. They are breaking into two OH radicals, and the rate of reaction is R2. So both the reactions are feasible when we have a nascent oxygen in the environment, right? Then which of the process is to be happen? So we, as I have written here, the rate of R2 reaction is much higher than R1. That means if we compare R1 and R2, then R2 preferably takes place in preference to R1. That means formation of two OH radical takes place and ozone does not form, right? Then let's talk about hydrocarbon. Let's take an example of what do you call that, ethane molecule. This ethane molecule first react with OH radical and capture one hydrogen from there, right? And this is going to be back. Here I have one radical. So what will happen? Why it breaks carbon hydrogen bond, not the carbon carbon bond? Because the bond energy in OH bond is stronger than carbon hydrogen bond. That's why this hydrogen comes to this way. Now what happened? I have an oxygen molecule in between. So what this oxygen will do, like this. So like this side, it join this side and it opens up to this side, and I getting a radical on this position. So in this way the oxygen is inserted, or we can simply say that before the attack of this OH radical we have pure alkane, and pure alkanes are deactivated, right? This OH radical obstructing one H radical and become water and generating one radical that further react. That means it activating the molecule, right? And after several number of steps we get carbon dioxide and water, right? So that was the end product of every hydrocarbon, whether you are going to start with the alkane, alkyne, some of the aromatics, whatever the hydrocarbons you are talked about, after combustion or uncontrolled oxidation, everything is converted into carbon dioxide and water and large amount of energy. All right. So next is the selectivity in the oxidation reactions, and it is very surprising to see that all the biological reactions, right, whatever the biological reaction we are thinking of, right, all the biological reaction takes place with the selectivity, right, whether it is chemioselectivity, whether it is regioselectivity, whether it is stereoselectivity, right. However, whatever the reaction we are going to do with the artificial system or in the artificial system, they are not selective, right. So lot of difficulties are there in doing selective reactions, right. For example, so what kind of selectivities we have? We have three kind of selectivities. What is first is chemioselectivity. What is mean by chemioselectivity? Chemioselectivity means we have two functional group on the molecule. We have two functional group at a time. Only one functional group will react, second will remain unaffected, 100% unaffected. Then we can say that reaction is chemioselective, right. If we have two regions or three regions where a molecule can attack, for example, I have a substitution on the phenyl ring. With respect to substitution, I have ortho, para and meta positions, right. So at a time or reaction will takes place at only one position. Either reaction will takes place at the ortho position, meta position or para position, right. So I am getting only one single product. In that case, I will say the reaction is regioselective, right. So if I am say okay, reaction is stereo. When we talking about stereo, then we have always interested in R and S configuration, right. whether the molecule have R stereochemistry or whether it is have S stereochemistry, right. So to maintain all the three stereochemistries, right, all the three selectivities, the natural biological processes are in demand, right, rather than the artificial system. However, we can achieve these kind of selectivities in the artificial system by adjusting the catalyst, reaction conditions and reagents, right. So that is very important topic. So let's discuss these three kind of selectivities one by one. The first example I am taking is chemioselectivity, right. And if I am talking about chemioselectivity, I have two groups, one is OH and other is NH2, right. If I am going to acetic anhydride and reflux this, then what I am getting? I am getting acyl group at OH position also and NH2 also. So I am getting acyl group on both the position. That means no selectivity at all, because I am doing a reaction is going everywhere, there is no selectivity, right. So then what is the purpose of selectivity? The purpose of selectivity is the reaction is going only at one position and the other position will remain unaffected. For example, if I will do this reaction, what you call that, this reaction in the presence of acetic anhydride 1 equivalent and in the presence of pyridine, then my OH group will remain unaffected and reaction takes place at the para position. So this is a very famous drug, that is paracetamol, right. The same, if this molecule is treated with NaOH, then again the acetyl group on the OH position, what do you call that, that will be hydrolyzed. This is become ester now, the ester become hydrolyzed if I am adding some of the sodium hydroxide. We can simply say I am doing hydrolysis. Upon hydrolysis, ester group is removed, right. So next example is regioselectivity. So here this position is my ortho, this is meta and this position is para, right. I am doing bromine in acetic acid at room temperature, right. That is simply we can say that electrophilic substitution reactions, right. And I have one amide group, all right. So this must be a amide group, right. So let's leave it, there is a lone pair of electron, right. So we have ortho, meta, para, then attack will takes place at which position, right. So we'll do this reaction in laboratory also, the bromination of you can say that acetaldehyde and we get para bromoacetaldehyde, right. So the bromination will takes place at the para position only, not onto the ortho position and meta position, they will remain unaffected, right. So this is known as regioselective example. In the next case, so here is the case of what you call that achalcone. Achalcone is 0 alpha beta. So achalcone is alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl compounds. So whenever I am reacting with some nucleophile, then nucleophile will attack onto the beta position also. The nucleophile, because it is electron rich, it can attack onto the electron deficient, delta negative, we can see delta positive. So a rich can attack onto this poor position also. So attack can takes place at 1,4 addition also takes place and 1,2 addition can also takes place, right. So again that's depend upon reagent to reagent that which addition will takes place, right. So we can control the reaction by providing exact conditions, right? So which product we want. So next is selectivity in the attacking site. We have a same reagent, same nucleophile. Now it's important whether our, we can say that this is my carbonyl group, right, and they are the rigid position. It can attack upward also, it can attack downward also, right. My reagent, if attack upward, then OH group goes below. If my reagent attack from downward, then OH group goes upwards. So if your reagent is small, it have a tendency, it can attack from any side. It can attack from upward, it can attack from downward, even if you have some bulky groups on the nearby positions, right. So if no bulky group, you will get 50-50 mixture. If you have a bulky group like tertiary, tertiary butyl group on the para position, that means it can block, it will try to create repulsion on the one side so that nucleophile can attack to other side. Okay. So here I have a equatorial attack, here I have a axial attack, right. So depending which will takes place, right. So that will again depend upon the reaction conditions. And second way is to achieve the highly stereoselective reaction is you must have a bigger reagent. If your reagent is big, it will always attack from last hindered side, right, and you will there is more chances of getting a single product. If you have a small reagent, it can attack to any site, right. So to get a stereoselective reactions, we must have a bigger reagent. That's why we will study the different reagents in this course, right. So that's all. Next we'll study in the next lecture.